Today I'm going to share 10 habits that help me stay lean year round as a natural, without following any fad diets, without following any quick fixes. For anyone who doesn't know, my name is Adrian McDonnell. I'm a full-time online health and fitness coach. I ran marathons, been on Ireland's #1 health and fitness podcast. I've also competed in bodybuilding, and we've coached over 700 clients worldwide. These are the 10 habits that help me personally stay lean year round. And while some of them might seem quite obvious to you, I never really hear anyone talk about their last one, number 10. So number 1 is I weigh myself every day. I used to only weigh myself once a week, but what I found was my weight would fluctuate by upwards of like 1 or 2 kilos over the course of the week. I then realized that my weight really does depend on, for example, how late I ate the night before, the amount of carbohydrates you consume, and even your stress levels. And even I also noticed as well, after a hard leg session, my weight would always increase the following day, due to the excess inflammation from all the stress in the body. So if you weigh yourself every single day, I promise you, you'll start understanding your body more. And as well, where attention goes, energy flows, okay? If you give more attention to what your body weight is, you're gonna be more likely to make better decisions throughout the rest of the day. Number 2 is strength training. So I recently had a conversation with a guy and he was complaining that he was somewhat skinny fat and he wanted to tone up, he wanted to build a bit of muscle. His problem was he was doing way too much cardio, and when you think about it, what gives your body that shape and that tone is having muscle in the absence of body fat, and you build muscle by lifting weights. Interesting thing as well is that muscle is more metabolically active than fat, meaning that the more muscle mass you have, the more calories you burn at rest. So make strength training. I genuinely believe if there's one form of activity you do for the rest of your life, it should be strength training. Number 3 is planning and preparation. How often does it ever happen that if you're absolutely starving, you want something to eat, you just grab the most quick and convenient thing? I used to be that way as well, and sometimes when you're having convenience foods, especially if fat loss is the goal, it can make it very, very hard to achieve your goal. So what I would say for everyone here is make it a rule that you do not go to bed the night before without knowing what you're going to eat the following day. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have your meals prepped, but if you know that, okay, I'm gonna have my overnight oats for breakfast, I know for lunch I'm gonna be eating on the go, but I do know this restaurant in town and it's got a healthy omelette I can get. For dinner, I'm gonna have a stir fry and I'm gonna have a protein shake after my workout. Once you know exactly what you need to eat, it makes fat loss, it makes the process of getting leaner way, way easier. Number 4 is following the 90-10 rule. The 90-10 rule is 90% of your calories come from single ingredient whole foods, 10% of your calories come from more processed foods. So you might be wondering, what is a whole food? So if you think about an apple, you go to the store, you get an apple, you don't need to look at the ingredients. An apple is just an apple, whereas apple juice, it may contain elements of an apple, but it's also got hundreds of added ingredients. So the way I like to think of it is, you've probably never eaten 4 apples in a row, but you probably have eaten, just like me, 4 slices of pizza or 4 slices of toast in a row. Now, how come it's easier for us to eat 4 slices of pizza or 4 slices of toast, even though they've actually more calories than 4 apples? It's because single ingredient whole foods will help keep you fuller for longer. So if you get 90% of your calories from single ingredient whole foods, this still gives you room with the other 10% to have more of your chocolates or your sweets or your more processed foods, which everyone does like from time to time. Number 5 is having a plant and a protein at every meal. So I always say the number 1 goal of fat loss should be, you want to eat as much food as possible while staying within your calorie deficit. And a good way of doing this is have lots of food that are high in protein and also high in fiber. So when you're thinking about plant and protein rich foods, a plant is either a fruit or a vegetable, and with your protein you want leaner source of protein. You want poultry, like things like chicken and turkey, you want eggs and egg whites, you want even lean steak mince. What I would do is I recommend minimizing things like fattier meats, like let's say lamb, like duck, even like pork and so on. Yes, it might contain an element of protein, but it also contains quite a few calories. So having a plant, having a protein, every single meal, it's a good way of staying fuller for longer and help you stay lean. So number 6 is walking more. So back in 2020, I did a photo shoot and I was looking quite lean. In 2021, I did another photo shoot and I probably built my leanest ever physique. The only thing that changed, my training was the same, my nutrition was more or less the same, was I made it an effort to actually walk more. I got one of these watches, started tracking my steps and just made it a non-negotiable that I'm gonna walk 10,000 steps per day. Now, there's nothing magical about 10,000. I think genuinely for most people, if you can walk at least 8,000 steps per day, it's gonna be good for your digestion, it's gonna be good for fat loss. I just set 10K the goal, and that's what I've done ever since. So start walking more. A good little hack as well is, rather than walking 10,000 steps all in one go, what I personally find works well is I try go for a 5 or 10 minute walk after every meal. and maybe a walk in the morning and a walk at night time. Number 7 is I have an eating window of roughly 12 hours or less. So back in the day, I used to always have an eating window of like 15 or 16 hours. I used to literally eat before bed at like 11 p.m, eat a big breakfast again at like 6:30. And I just felt that I never give my body time to digest. And when you think about it, if you ever get your blood checked, the first thing they'll ask you to do is fast for at least 12 hours. And while there's nothing magical about fasting in the sense that, look, your overall calories matter more, personally speaking, my digestion is much improved if I condense my eating window within roughly 12 hours. And interestingly enough, what really reaffirmed this for me was I heard Dr. Randall Patrick speak on Joe Rogan's podcast. And what everyone was ramping on about, like intermittent fasting, like 16 hours fasting, 8 hours fed, I personally find that was a bit too congested and a bit too tight. But Rhonda Patrick spoke about the benefits of time-restricted eating, whereby you condense your eating window anywhere between 9 and 12 hours. And I think that's much more flexible for most people. It just means that if you eat your breakfast at say 8 a.m, you can still have your final meal at 8 p.m. And personally speaking, it helps my digestion. Number 8 is I drink a gallon of water a day. So I tried out Andy Frisetta's 75 Hard Challenge around COVID time. And one of the tasks was drink a gallon of water a day. Now a gallon of water is 3.77 litres. And up until then, my water intake was probably in and around that, but like I never really gave it a whole lot of attention. But ever since then, honestly, for a lot of people, myself included, I sometimes mistake being hungry with just genuinely being dehydrated. So drink a gallon of water a day, that's something I personally do. If you're unsure like how much water do you need to drink, what I'd recommend is whatever your body weight is in kilos, multiply that by 30 to 50 and drink that amount in milliliters per day. So for example, if you're 80 kilos, 3 times 8, that's 2.4 litres. 5 times 8, that's 4 litres. So anywhere between 2.4 to 4 litres. But for me personally, I drink at least 1 gallon of water a day. Number 9 is getting good quality sleep. So back in the day, I used to think I was invincible. And then I heard a guy called Matthew Walker speak on Joe Rogan's podcast. And that literally changed the game for me. He basically spoke about lack of sleep can increase your appetite the following day by upwards of 25%. So imagine now you're in a calorie deficit and your daily calorie goal is 2,000. That can be the difference between consuming 2 and 2,500 calories per day. The funny thing as well though, we all know after a poor night's sleep, what kind of foods you crave. You crave foods that are higher in sugar and higher in calories typically. You want to have the chips over the carrot stick. So ever since I heard that podcast, I've made it a big effort. Doesn't always happen, I'm not gonna lie, to get at least 7 hours of sleep. Ideally 7 to 9 hours. Personally speaking, anything over 7 usually sits well with me. But my biggest challenge genuinely with sleep, it's actually not getting up in time. It's making sure I have the discipline to leave the phone away and just to go to bed in time. So getting good quality sleep, that is the 9th thing I do to stay lean year round. And number 10 is I track my progress, okay? So I have an Excel sheet tracker on my laptop and I can see every single workout, every single program I've done as far back as 2017. So for example, I ran the Dublin Marathon 2018. If I want to look back and see what kind of training was I doing back then, I can just literally go onto the Excel sheet. I can see my exact program, I see my exact lifts, and that will just help me understand, okay, I did this last time, this time, if I want to do that again, I might follow a similar form of training. I think a lot of people, they coast in the gym and your workout varies, your workout changes week to week. One week you're doing a Joe Wicks HIIT workout, the next week you're doing an Instagram workout you saw some influencer post. Whereas if you follow a program and you actually track your lifts, not just the compound lift, but literally every lift, I promise you, you will beat the logbook if you know what you did last week, this week you want to improve. And over the course of a month, over the course of a week, over the course of a year, progress is the most addictive thing. And the more progress you make, the better your physique will be. So those are 10 things that I found that help me stay lean year round. If there's anything else that you found helpful, drop them in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this, be sure you hit the subscribe.